The anime starts off in a cold and snowy region where one of the warriors strikes a sword deep into a dragon and immediately pulls it out, which leads to a ton of blood loss from the dragon. The dragon enters a deep state of wonder, thinking how he's never done anything to threaten the humans, as he loses all his blood at an increasingly dangerous pace. In fact, he reflects on how he's been an ally to some of them in their times of need. Saying that, he destroys the chains that were taming him, but not in rage, rather to accept his inevitable fate of death. He thinks to himself how this is a very pathetic end for a dragon who's been alive since the age of the gods, to die at the hands of a mere human. Still, he welcomes the Reaper with grace and requests his soul be taken to the underworld so that he can rest eternally. The scene immediately cuts to a new baby being born to a mother known as Arsena. The baby opens his eyes for the first time and looks at his parents and grandmother. The grandmother is amazed at how he's able to open his eyes immediately after his birth and says that he must be gifted in some way. The mother happily welcomes her baby to the family, telling him that his name is Dolan. Time fast forwards, and Dolan is all grown up. He's standing at a small distance from the village he lives in, admiring the sunset. He also has a sword, indicating that he's a warrior. A little girl named Eri comes to take him back to the village. Dolan pats her on the head and walks with her to the village. A narrator explains that Varun is a small village at the border of the kingdom of Arkrest. The narrator is actually none other than the dragon himself who died in the beginning. However, he's narrating as Dolan now. Apparently, after his death, he was reborn into this village as a human. It's a small village, so the only thriving industry is agriculture, and that's what he does to make a living. He's only 16 years old, and in the village, that's the age you're considered an adult, so he lives alone away from his family. Dolan goes fishing with one of his friends, where they discuss the swamps that are to be investigated. Even though it's not Dolan's job, he chooses to do it anyway, as he thinks Captain Balin and the other garrisons have their hands full protecting the village. Saying that, he ends up catching a big fish and manages to pull it out of the river. He heads over and meets two of his training partners, Melita and Albert. They wish him luck with the investigation. The village is surrounded by a number of bandits and monsters, and the garrisons can't cover everything, so civilians like Dolan are also expected to help protect the village. He soon meets the little girl Eri again, who comes to remind him of his training schedule with his grandmother. Eri seems excited as it's about his magic training. We see him use his magic to hurl a target with great force. His grandmother compliments his offensive magic and tells him it's time to train in medicine-related magic, which is his worst subject. The training soon ends, and he meets with the village leader, who introduces Dolan to a girl named Christina. She'll be living in the village for a while. The leader asks Dolan to be on his best behavior as the girl is from nobility. She introduces herself to Dolan and soon leaves with the village leader. Dolan then goes to meet his family with a basket of vegetables as a gift. It's a thoughtful gesture, as in winter you risk freezing to death. The family is excited to see Dolan, especially his little brother. His father talks about how he should get married and start a family, but Dolan objects, saying he wants to enjoy being single a little longer. The next day, he sets out to leave the village to investigate swamps. Lizards once lived there, but now they're all gone, and he volunteered to investigate. All his close loved ones come to see him off, and Eri even prepares lunch for him. At the swamp, he comes across a lamia. The creature is half human and half serpent. She seems oddly delighted to meet Dolan and is quite friendly. Before they can talk much, they're interrupted by a huge sand monster that attacks the lamia. Dolan immediately charges at the sand monster, known as the Earth Elemental, and strikes its arm as it tries to attack the lamia. They both take cover behind a mushroom and hide from the Earth Elemental, which wanders off, unable to find them. The lamia introduces herself as Selena. Dolan doesn't even introduce himself properly, but proposes the idea that they should take this creature down together. Selena is taken aback at first but is quickly persuaded by Dolan. They launch a surprise attack on the Earth Elemental. Selena summons a huge serpent that wraps itself around the monster. This gives Dolan the opening he needs to strike the monster down for good. He charges and slices it in two by imbuing his sword with draconic magic. After defeating the monster, he formally introduces himself as Dolan to Selena, who's covered in mud thanks to the monster exploding on her. However, she's still happy to have met Dolan. They decide to cook a meal together by the fire that night. Selena is happy to see that a human isn't afraid of her. Dolan replies that it's because she's not aggressive towards humans, so there's no reason to fear her. Selena tells him she's on a journey to find a husband. It's a rule in the Lamia community for a girl to go on such a journey when they turn 17. The only problem is that their husbands need to be resistant to poison, or they might die when kissed. Dolan finishes cooking and hands her a bowl of food. After tasting it, she excitedly acts like a little girl, thinking it's delicious. They talk about their families and share how much they love them. The next day, they decide to go their separate ways. Before parting, Dolan gives Selena a taste of his dragon energy when they shake hands. It's too much for her, and she nearly faints, but she's pleasantly surprised despite its seemingly dangerous effects. In the next episode, we witness Selena on her separate way. She comes across another pair of humans who warn her that it's not a good idea to travel alone. Although, as soon as they see her lower half, they're scared to death and just run for their lives. This leaves Selena in a tantrum, as she meant no harm and didn't even get a chance to introduce herself. Meanwhile, Dolan is spending time with his grandmother and Aerie back at their home. He and Aerie are trying to make a herbal medicine induced with some magic, and since that isn't one of Dolan's strong suits, he fails. On the other hand, Aerie seems to be doing quite well and even encourages Dolan not to feel bad about it, as he usually has other things to worry about throughout the day. The grandmother mentions how Dolan is the strongest at offensive magic, but lags behind in magic related to medicine. The reason for that is because, in his previous life, he never needed any medicine magic to help him. He promises his grandmother that he'll try his best to improve and be more diligent. His grandmother admires his enthusiasm and ambition. He then spends some time having a meal with his family, although he ends up spending too much of it there and has to run towards his training spot as he has some regular training to do today. On his way, he meets a demi-human lady of the village who feeds the villagers milk from her own breast. Her name is Miu, and she is the wife of Captain Balin. Dolan thinks to himself how delicious that milk really is and doesn't want to pass up on that offer. However, he's in a hurry and has to decline, but the lady gives it to him forcefully anyway. He drinks it as fast as possible and continues his rush towards the training site. As he's running, the noble lady Christina observes him from a distance. When he reaches there, Albert is already training a few kids, and they seem excited to see Dolan. They want to show him the spear skills they've acquired while training. However, Albert tells them that training time is over, and they should just scram. They were annoyed, but chose to comply. Meanwhile, Dolan senses something weird from the woods nearby. He senses the presence of a demon. When it gets a little darker, he decides to visit the place from where he got that sensation. According to him, this is the kind of demon that shouldn't be here at all. He wanders deep into the woods and ends up discovering a pleasant surprise as he comes across his friend Selena. Although it wasn't as pleasant for her since she was completely naked after cleaning herself, so she reacted abruptly and almost fell to the ground. Dolan immediately jumps to save her from falling and takes her into his arms. It makes for a cute gesture, but Selena wasn't really that comfortable around him. Naturally, she asks him to close his eyes and get away. Dolan is so dense and dumb, he doesn't even read the situation right. Instead of complying with the request, he asks Selena why he would close his eyes if he finds Selena so beautiful. The idiot genuinely couldn't understand how what he said would make any girl angry. This comment earns him a slap on his left cheek, and rightfully so. After receiving it, he realizes his mistake and apologizes. He then asks what led Selena over to his village, even though she originally planned on going south. She tells him how she changed her mind after two travelers who were scared for their lives after just taking a first look at her. This is why she decided to look for Dolan again, so that she could be around some human who wasn't scared of her at all. Dolan proposes the idea that she should stay with him in the village. Selena initially shows concern about whether the people of the village would accept her, as she's half-serpent. Dolan reassures Selena by telling her that there are half-beasts and demi-humans who are already a part of the village. She's still not convinced, as she's not just any normal half-beast, she's a lamia. Humans have a harder time accepting them as they're half-serpents. Dolan reassures her that he'll find a way. He tells her that he'll be able to enjoy life a whole lot more if she's around. After saying that, he wonders if he's flirting with her. For a dragon who's been alive since the days of the gods, he's quite stupid. Selena also confesses that one of the reasons she sought out Dolan was because she wanted a taste of that energy she gave, and Dolan was more than happy to comply. Dolan then asks Selena to do exactly as he says in order to get her to be accepted by the village. In the coming few days, Selena leaves her prey in front of the village so they could eat it for themselves. She also made sure to leave behind a trail that would let the humans know that these gifts were from a lamia. They held a meeting where some were concerned about the presence of such a powerful demon around the village, whereas others thought that since she was giving them gifts, maybe they shouldn't attack her at all. In the end, it was concluded that the lamia was not to be hunted down, meaning that they let their guard down. This news reached Dolan, who was happy to hear it and rushed to Selena to tell her all about it. He then tells her that it's time to enter the final phase of the plan. The following day, the villagers and some of their strong warriors decide to go for outdoor drills. Even though they're not actively hunting her, they still are afraid and want to keep a checkout for anything dangerous around them. The leader of the garrisons, Balin, and his first-in-command, Malada, is with them. A priest warrior known as Miss Letitia is also a part of the group. Since she's a priest, her opinion on Selena would be held in high regard. If she considers Selena an evil entity, that'll be a huge problem, Dolan wonders to himself. Meanwhile, the innocent Selena is anxious and scared about the plan. She can't help but be worried about how it will pan out. She is supposed to save Dolan from a herd of piercing rabbits. If she fails to do it, it'll put his life in danger. However, before they could even put their plan into effect, their group gets attacked by an armored bear out of nowhere. It sets its eyes on Balin's son and charges in for an attack. Dolan tries to jump in between the bear and the boy. However, Selena beats him to it, saving both Dolan and Balin's boy. She then proceeds to use her evil eyes to drive the creature away back into the woods. Despite witnessing this heroic act, people of the village are still afraid of witnessing a lamia in front of them. So, Selena begs for her life and reassures them that she means no harm to humans at all. Meanwhile, Letitia receives an oracle from the divine goddess Myral and confirms that the lamia before them has no impure intent whatsoever. She asks Selena to get up. However, she simply faints as the injuries she received from the bear were too severe. She is immediately taken to the village, where she receives medical attention and quickly heals. The villagers even go as far as to give her a home of her own. She loves everything about her new home, especially the plushie given to her by the villagers. Dolan is relieved at how everything turns out and thinks to himself that he owes his friend Myral big time for watching over him. He has been alive for a long time in his previous life, so it's needless to say that he knew this god. One cloudy night, Dolan projects his soul out of his body and goes to visit the realm of Myral up in the heavens. As he reaches there, his spiritual form takes the shape of a dragon, the creature he was in his previous life. Myral is happy to see her old friend and thinks he is happy with his new life. Dolan immediately thanks her for helping him gain the trust of the humans for Selena. Myral mentions how his life as a dragon was something he did not like, and Dolan has no shame in confessing that this is indeed the truth. Even at the end of his dragon life, he felt no remorse whatsoever. He goes back to his body in his sleep and is woken up by Selena, who is so excited to see him. Dolan asks her to at least knock before entering, and this makes the innocent Selena regret what she did. She was even willing to close the door to knock again, but Dolan says that there is no need for that. Selena actually came to remind Dolan that he made a promise to Christina to plant potatoes with her. Christina soon writes a letter to her friend Olivia, telling her how her life has been ever since she came to the village. She tells her about how training is mandatory for everyone since the village is under constant threat by other demons, and the normal garrisons can't always be there for you. Christina also has a spar with Melida, who is one of the best swordsmen in the village. Initially, she held back since Christina was a guest, but upon Christina's request, she gave it her all. Despite that, Christina still manages to disarm Melida of her sword and claimed victory. She accepted defeat with dignity and honor. She mentions in the letter that even though the environment in which the villagers live is harsh, the people themselves are very warm and welcoming. They even threw a huge dinner party as a way to welcome Christina. Captain Balan even asks if Christina would like to have a drink with him, but Melida immediately stopped him as she considers that to be bad manners, especially since he won't stop talking till the next dawn if Christina joins him. After having dinner, Christina is dropped at her new home by Balan and some of his friends. She couldn't sleep and felt lonely, so she went someplace quiet, and under the crescent moonlight, she began to practice her skills with the sword. Dolan and Selena caught her in the act, and Selena, being the innocent and welcoming person she is, decides to welcome Christina to her home. She tells Christina how she loves everything and everyone in the village. Selena also tells Christina how Balan's wife is a demi-human who can produce milk from her breast. Her husband feeds the milk to everyone in the village and loves to brag about how he can drink the most of it out of any other villager. The three of them rest on the bed and talk the night through. The next day, they pay a visit to Balan, where he's feeding all the villagers his wife's milk and proudly announcing that he can drink the most of it. Christina also takes a taste of it and loves it. Balan immediately concludes that she is a heavy drinker and challenges her to a milk-drinking competition. Christina accepts, and surprisingly, Balan is struggling to defeat her, and in the end, Christina ends up winning. Everyone is impressed with Christina and celebrates her victory as if it were their own. Later, Christina even drinks their daughter's milk and loves it. Her daughter becomes happy at Christina's reaction and gives her a big hug. This place becomes a very close place for Christina in no time. Christina mentions all of these details in the letter that she sends to her friend. News of her befriending Elamia quickly spreads in the main city of Galois because of these letters. Some people discuss this matter and consider it a threat and think that the Lamia should be brought to Galois. They immediately start plotting against them, and they haven't even realized this. In the next episode, Selena gets accused of committing a crime, which is very obviously a false accusation. Christina goes and visits her friend Olivia in the city of Galois, where she learns that the person behind the false accusation is a witch known as Kieran. She holds a high position in the city, and what she says is equivalent to the words spoken by the Governor General. Selena and Dolan get escorted to the main city, where they get a surprisingly warm welcome from Kieran. She arranges for the two of them a huge dinner and even eats alongside them. Selena, being the innocent creature she is, shows visible excitement after being treated to such delicacies. She tells them that she suspected the villagers were being manipulated by the evil eyes, but after meeting with Selena, she is reassured that it is clearly not the case. After finally being relieved, they start eating the meal without hesitation, but that is when Kieran reveals her real intentions. This crazy witch wants to eat Selena because she's so beautiful. Yeah, she's definitely nothing short of crazy. The two of them faint right there on the dining table as she laughs maniacally. Meanwhile, Administrator Gorda, the person who apprehended Selena and Dolan in the first place, comes into the room where Christina and Olivia are talking. He talks about the recent kidnapping of young women that have been occurring recently and how none of them have been found. He theorizes that there is a witch who could possibly be using them to improve her longevity and beauty. Such witches have a keen interest in Lamia and their abilities. Since Kieran was the one who falsely accused Selena, it leads Gorda to believe that she wanted to kidnap Selena for her wicked witchcraft. Time is running out, and Kieran already has both Dolan and Selena in her lab, where she plans on using each and every one of their organs for herself. Dolan, being a dragon, wakes up quickly as he's actually a dragon in spirit. Kieran questions his humanity, judging by how quickly the poison wore off of him. Not long after, Selena also wakes up, leading her to conclude that she must have messed up the dosage. Out of nowhere, Christina barges into the lab with Olivia, Gorda, and a few guards. It seems Kieran lacks a few IQ points for the job and didn't plan this thoroughly enough. She whines about her traumatic past, where her greatest dilemma was that she wasn't really pretty as a child. And to be honest, that's a pretty lame reason to stoop so low as to become a witch. She then turns into a monster out of nowhere, and it was made possible by the hundreds of people she mercilessly killed and used their organs for herself. She tries to attack them, but Selena uses her evil eyes to stop her. It manages to slow her down, but not stop her completely. She pushes harder to attack Selena, but Christina draws her sword and slices the attack coming at Selena. This gives Dolan an opening to prepare his spell known as the Celestial Javelin. The attack is strong enough to bring her down for good. After this event, Gorda realizes that Selena is a nice creature and even goes as far as to award her with a permit that allows her to walk around Galois and officially recognizes her as a civilian of the Kingdom of our Crest. They stroll around the village, and Dolan even meets one of his old friends, known as Denzel. Some people are still afraid at the sight of a Lamia walking around the city, but they don't let that bother them at all. Before seeing Dolan and Selena off for their village, Denzel gives Dolan a chance to join the academy in the main city to hone his magic further. Olivia, the dean of the academy, witnessed firsthand what he was capable of, and Denzel thinks it's time he improved upon what he already knows. Dolan is fascinated by the idea but says that he has some matters to tend to in the village. Denzel lets him go but lets him know that the offer is still open whenever he wishes to come back. On their way back, Dolan thinks about the offer Denzel had made. However, the thought of Dolan leaving the village upsets the innocent Selena a little. The next episode starts off with a herd of monsters attacking a group of elves and defeating them entirely. The monsters seem to be a mixture of ants and spiders. The scene cuts back to the village, where Dolan and Christina are training the kids of the village. They are training them and having fun at the same time. Dolan counters the attack of a kid and advises him to be careful with his choice of attack, as it could leave him wide open. Selena is also there in the training field, but she isn't taking part in the training. She doesn't need to either, as she's strong enough without it. Selena is lost in thought, wondering about the offer Denzel made to Dolan. She begins to worry that if he accepts it, it would mean Dolan won't be around in the village anymore. She hasn't realized it yet, but she's starting to fall in love with him without even realizing it. Her thoughts are suddenly disrupted when she realizes there are kids sitting on her lower serpent body. She shouts at them like a little kid, and the naughty kids scramble away, with her chasing them like an older, annoyed sister. Dolan witnesses this and is happy about it. To him, it meant that the villagers and Selena are getting along quite well. Soon, Christina proposes that they should go deep into the woods. Dolan is initially against it, as it comes with its fair share of dangers. Not to mention, they could risk encountering a demon who could very well destroy their lives once and for all. Yet the ambitious Christina is still willing to go just to get some fresh air. She eventually convinces Dolan to agree. Selena, Balin, and some other men also come along. They decide to take the pigs with them to feed them. Christina mentions how fresh the air of the forest is, and Selena happily agrees. They enjoy their time until, out of nowhere, one of the pigs is killed. Suddenly, A very big tiger appears out of nowhere, which is obviously a demon and not a normal one. It attacks one of the soldiers viciously, but before it can get to him, Balin appears out of nowhere to strike it down. He helps the soldiers up, advising them to never let their guard down in the forest. Unfortunately, as he's helping the soldier, another demon appears. This demon looks like a mixture of an ant and a spider, and it strikes down Balin, causing him to shout for help. Christina, Selena, and Dolan rush to his aid and witness him struck down by the demon, but he's still alive and talking. Dolan uses his offensive magic, known as Energy Volt, to stop the demon from attacking Balin any further. After seeing the demon, Dolan is utterly shocked. He can't even imagine that such a demon would ever appear in the village. According to Dolan, such demons don't appear in the village. In fact, they aren't even from this realm, which makes him slightly worried. The name of the demon is Zelt, and despite being a low-level demon from another realm, it is quite strong and agile. Christina is amazed at how much Dolan knows about it. He says he learned about it from a book. He uses the same spell again to jolt the beast, giving Christina the opening she needs to get close and strike it down. They all return home safely. Everyone in the village is worried after witnessing a demon strike down Balin, who is supposed to be the strongest warrior of the village. Dolan is also seriously concerned about the safety of the village after seeing such a demon in a place like this. Being the kind and brave person he is, he volunteers to go investigate the forest. Christina and Selena don't want him to go alone, so they volunteer to go with him. However, the higher-ups of the village don't allow Christina to go, as they had promised to return her to the main city safely. Letting her go with Dolan would mean her life would be at risk. As Selena and Dolan are about to leave the village for the investigation, they talk about how it's been a while since they worked and fought monsters together. Selena thinks to herself that she has to prove herself useful to Dolan this time and prove her powers to him. Although Dolan thinks she is more than capable of handling threats herself, especially because of the power she possesses with her evil eyes. Just before leaving the village, they come across Christina again. She wishes to join them on their journey, even though she is forbidden to leave the village. Christina now feels as though she is one of the villagers and not just a guest, so she wants to play her role in defending it. Dolan agrees to this sentiment and lets her come along. They soon find themselves fighting monsters, and Dolan wonders how much this village now means to him, despite being a dragon. He feels like he's become more human over the years. They keep fighting monsters until eventually, a monkey-like creature appears with tons of small kinds. Dolan immediately realizes that this one isn't bloodthirsty and just wants to have something to eat. They all decide to have a meal with the creature instead of fighting it. Selena gives Christina an apple so she can feed one of the monster's kids. After feeding it, Christina realizes that they're actually quite harmless and pats it on the head. She was initially afraid of them, but soon begins to think they are actually cute. Dolan hands Christina some bread with meat, and after taking a bite, she finds it very delicious. Selena mentions that Christina is so pretty that just watching her eat is a sight to behold. Dolan agrees, saying Christina's beauty has a certain charm to it. Selena begins to ask Christina about her secret, wondering if it's some sort of magic that makes her like this. If she could get a hold of it, it might help her in searching for a husband. Dolan says that Selena doesn't need it, as she is very beautiful herself. This immediately sends butterflies to the very core of the innocent Selena. She begins fantasizing about whether Dolan wants to make her his wife, and she is visibly happy. Even an idiot could tell what she's thinking, but Dolan is so dense that he doesn't catch on at all. The next thing they know, they find a fairy in a protective coven that is about to faint. She tells them to run as she's about to faint. Immediately, a herd of Zelt demons appears out of nowhere. Dolan, Selena, and Christina manage to fight them and kill them. However, Dolan is forced to use his dragon arm, as their numbers are far too great. After defeating them all, they speak with the fairy, who says she was chased by so many of these demon soldiers. Dolan fears the worst right now, as this means there are likely many more of these demons, and who knows where they went. Then, a group of elves appears out of nowhere, and their leader, with long blonde hair, asks for the fairy back. In the next episode, the fairy goes to the elves and tells them that these people actually saved them and that they're not a threat to anyone. She addresses the leader of the elves as Geo. The leader of the elves steps forward and expresses his gratitude for saving the fairy. However, he is forced to remind them that this section of the forest is known as the Ente Forest, and it is only the territory of the elves. He asks them the reason for stepping inside. Dolan replies with absolute grace, first introducing himself and the village he came from. He then tells the elves that his village was attacked by the demons they had just fought, and their investigation led them right to this forest. Their only wish is to kill all the demons, ensuring the safety of their village. The leader of the elves allows their trespass. However, he tells them to leave immediately, as they are at war with these monsters and will take the matters into their own hands. Saying that, they turn their backs on Dolan and his family and begin to leave. This slightly infuriates Christina, who rushes toward Geo and makes him realize how dire the situation really is. He should be asking for help instead of taking them head-on, and Christina says that they were more than willing to help them, as their own village is also in need of protection. The rest of the elves take their guard, sensing the potential threat that Christina could pose, as she was slightly hot-headed when she said that. However, she immediately apologizes for her slightly rude manner, but in reality, she was just concerned. The rest of the elves had witnessed firsthand that these people were more than capable of providing help, and Geo also comes around after his younger brother asks him if it might be a good idea to accept the help that these strangers have to offer. Geo then agrees to accept their help. Meanwhile, Dolan is thinking to himself that there is indeed a gate nearby, which is summoning these hideous creatures to Earth, and it must be destroyed. To do that, he might have to resort to using his dragon powers, but it's a price he's willing to pay, even if it means that the people of the village might not accept him as he is. Then, suddenly, a dark beam of energy shoots into the sky out of nowhere, and this catches the attention of everyone. This frightens Dolan even more, as it means that even more powerful demons could come from the gate now. His deduction is definitely correct, as 3 new higher-powered demons come out of the gate, which previously only released Zelts. They are members of the 4 knights of the demon world, and one of them is a red-headed small girl who looks like she's dressed up for Halloween. After witnessing the surge of dark magic rise into the sky, Dolan casts wind magic on himself and his allies. It allows them to run really fast toward the village of the elves, so they can make it there in time to protect them. Meanwhile, Dolan and his friends are fighting off the Zelts. They are fighting as fast as they can so they can reach the village quickly and offer their help to the elves. Dolan uses a spell known as Energy Rain that wipes out many Zelts at the same time. Christina is proficient with her sword, as always. Selena is using her evil eyes to the best of her abilities. After a while, Dolan hands over a magic stone to both Christina and Selena to get rid of the enemies even faster. Seeing what these 3 are capable of made Geo rely on them even more. On the other hand, the woman who used those plants to capture Geord comes before him and introduces herself as Diodora. She then asks him about how many sins he has committed against the innocent, but proceeds to mention that the greatest sin he has ever committed was not being strong enough, as that's what's going to cost him his victory today. Even though initially it seemed like Diodora had everything under control, suddenly another member of the 4 knights of the demon world appears out of nowhere and completely disintegrates the vines that were holding Geord. It's the same girl who looks like she's dressed for Halloween. Her name is Raphrasia, and despite her timid appearance, she's actually a formidable opponent. Geord, being a prideful demon, says that he had everything under control, but that couldn't be further from the truth. Diodora then proceeds to use magic of plants and flowers to capture the new foe in front of her, but the flowers and plants do not respond to her request. This leaves her in a tantrum as Raffrasia reveals that she had destroyed all her flowers and plants before she even got to the battlefield. She mocks the flowers as she was able to sense that they were begging to be left alive. This really sends Diodora over the edge, and she starts attacking her with full rage despite not being at full power. However, this doesn't make the evil Raffrasia regret her actions at all. In fact, she continues to mock Diodora even more as she skillfully uses her magic to deflect all of her attacks. She then says that all life has no meaning at all, and all they do is act as a source to nourish her own needs. Diodora keeps attacking rigorously, ignoring Raffrasia's senseless speech, and eventually lands an attack. After landing the attack, Diodora tells her that even the most beautiful rose has thorns. Even though Raffrasia is hardly scratched, just the sight of seeing her own blood on her fingers makes her lose her cool. She teams up with Georg and lands a successful attack on Diodora, which sucks her mana. Diodora lies there helplessly, unable to get up, and realizes that she is going to lose this battle as she witnesses both of her foes charging towards her. Then suddenly, Dolan appears from the sky on the scene to save her. In the next episode, it turns into an all-out battle. As soon as Dolan enters the battlefield, Christina soon follows and aims for a strike straight at Georg. Georg manages to block the attack with the mighty spear he carries in one of his hands. However, the fact that he had to block it shows how dangerous it could have been for him had it landed. Meanwhile, Raffrasia takes this opportunity to strike straight at Dolan. However, it's not successful at all, as she's caught in a surprise attack by an arrow from the elf. This is the second time she's taken a blow in this battle, so it definitely sends her over the top. However, suddenly the earth shakes, and another beam of dark energy rises up to the sky. The two knights of the demon realm smile, as it definitely means that the fourth and final member of their team has come into this realm, although he still hasn't reached the battlefield yet. Selena reaches the battlefield and uses her serpents to grab hold of Georg. He is unable to escape, and Dolan decides to charge up an attack known as the Spear of Judgment. Just as he's about to strike Georg, he's distracted by someone else who appears on the battlefield and strikes him instead. He's another one of the members of the Four Knights, and his name is Garen. He's standing right in front of Selena, and Dolan's attack had no effect on him at all. Meanwhile, Georg also successfully breaks the serpents of Selena that were wrapping him up, leaving her exposed right in front of the heavily armored Georg and Garen. Dolan rushes in to save Selena, just as she's about to be struck down by Georg. However, Christina beats him to it, and manages to successfully deflect Georg's spear with her mighty sword strike. Georg regards Christina as a superhuman for being able to do what she did. He considers her a worthy opponent and says that this is definitely getting interesting. Christina then unleashes the full power of her sword, known as El Sparda. It increases in size and becomes visibly a lot more deadly. She then takes on Georg head-on and manages to land a blow straight to his chest, which makes Georg both infuriated and confused, as he never could have guessed that a mere person like Christina could ever damage him that badly. Meanwhile, Selena relies on her earth magic to create a huge hand that takes hold of Garen. She then uses her magic to blast him. However, that blast has no effect at all. She then uses her serpents to strangle him. Garen easily manages to break through even them and laughs at the attacks delivered by the young Selena. He finally uses his ace to strike back at Selena, and it seems like she won't be able to defend herself. Suddenly, Dolan comes in between Selena and Garen to defend her. After blocking his strike, Dolan uses his punch to fight back and strikes Garen. This pushes him away, and he's surprised at how strong Dolan really is. Then finally, out of nowhere, the final and strongest member of the Four Knights appears. Dolan immediately realizes that the aura coming from this person is completely different, and he's in a league of his own. The demon admires Dolan for the amount of strength he possesses, as he successfully manages to inflict damage on them and draws his 3 swords, prepared for battle. Dolan and the strongest knight quickly collide their swords, and to the demon's surprise, Dolan is actually pushing him away too. Christina and Diodora witness this and wonder how on earth a human can be this strong. Furthermore, Dolan manages to deduce that this demon is actually a fallen god, and this amuses the strongest of the four knights even more. He's convinced that Dolan is actually hiding something from him. They both battle it out a little more, and to everyone's surprise, Dolan is the first person to land a hit. This amuses the demon, and eventually, he declares that he'll launch a special move, stating that if Dolan manages to survive it, he'll recognize him as a truly formidable foe. He unleashes his ultimate attack, known as the 3 cursed light slashes. Dolan, without fully transforming into his dragon form, uses his dragon power to deflect the attack straight into the sky. This excites the demon even further. However, he senses that Dolan is currently too focused on protecting his allies rather than fighting at his full potential. He offers Dolan the chance to join their side, but the offer is, of course, rejected. The four knights then retreat at their leader's command, as he deems the current battlefield and conditions unsuitable for continuing the fight. Afterward, Dolan, Christina, and Selena are escorted to the higher-ups of the elves, where they meet an unexpected figure. It's none other than Olivia herself, the dean of the Magic Academy.